I respect the way the street functions. I'm not here to change how the street functions or anything. I'm just here to let people know that they're worthy of everything in this life, just as they are.
Do it over. We'll start it from here.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to our podcast. My name is Ryan. I'm here with my co-host, Lavit. We are both people who work in the social justice industrial complex, and our podcast is all about talking about and discussing and trying to figure out that the social justice industrial complex, the industry we both work in.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Soma and Jen. Welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for coming. So full disclosure, I don't want it to come out later that, how much I love these two and that they're close personal friends of mine, but they are, and they graciously agreed to come on the podcast and talk about the very, very important work they do. So they both work for an organization called the Sidewalk Project, started by Soma in 2017. They are a direct responder, pretty much doing crisis management at this point on Skid Row, specifically with people who use drugs and people who suffer from pretty severe mental illness. They are a harm reduction organization. They're really the only mobile needle exchange on Skid Row. They do Narcan, case management. They've housed more people than I have, no question. And they are doing everything grassroots, DIY, mutual aid. They're not a big government worker like I am. They're really doing it themselves from the ground up.
Yeah, so we are a lived experience harm reduction organization. And as Lavit was saying, we work directly on the street with unhoused folks. We do work in Skid Row, but we have chapters in other places like Long Beach and Vegas and Phoenix. We're community-based organization. It's all DIY. We have taken some grants recently. We do work with people who use drugs, folks in crisis, mental or physical health crisis, and also sex workers. And I am still a sex worker. It's been 18 years for me. And when we say lived experience, we are lived experience. All of us who do the work have some kind of experience with, houselessness and poverty and sex work and trauma and incarceration and all of those things. One of the guys that works with us was actually in prison for 36 years for murder, and 11 of those years he was in solitary confinement. And we think it's really important to work from that kind of deep understanding that comes from personal experience. We started out as an arts and music organization that was doing some harm reduction, mostly Narcan, and we really grew. It was a goal of mine to become a syringe service provider, and within a year of kind of declaring that goal, we did it, but we did it in the midst of the pandemic. And the pandemic actually, as horrific as it has been in so many ways, it helped us change how we work. And as a result, we've deepened our work because we go directly to people in their homes. They're the homes that people live in on the street.
I mean, I think that's such an important piece to bring up, is the going where people are, meeting people, really meeting them where they're at. It's very easy to assume that somebody doesn't care about themselves if they don't show up to an appointment, but reality is, when you're on the street, it's a constant 24-hour loop. Like, you don't know what day it is, what time it is. You've been up all night with all kinds of things happening, stabbings, overdoses, rapes, like whatever's happening. And it's not they don't care about themselves. They're just in like a constant trauma loop, right? And so, having been unhoused off and on for 15 years or so, like myself, I know I didn't know what time it was. I wanted to be at an appointment. I wanted to take care of myself, but I didn't know. Like, if you tell me 2 weeks in advance or a week in advance, it's Wednesday at 3. I don't know what day it is. I have no idea what time it is. I've been up for, all night trying to stay alive. There's a decent size trans community that, a lot of them have been hiding out, like they're pretty much the bottom of the totem pole. I feel very honored to be allowed into their circle, and that they trust me enough to, come back into medical care and all the things. Yeah, so it's really great. A lot of them are getting housed slowly but surely. It's very important that they stay together, that they build families. I've never seen actually a population that is more family oriented. They call each other moms and sisters, and like most of them had no family. I mean, the fact that I am on the advanced directives for a couple of them is heartbreaking to me. That means they don't have anybody, and that's the reality, probably their entire lives, like to be, shunned by family and society, and then, where they go. So they've kind of built their own families. And so it's very important that they stay together. And that's kind of what I try to do with them.
What's advanced directives?
Advanced directive is if you're dying, it's basically like a living will in a way, but not a will like for your belongings, but for your life, like to say
Right.
This person has the authority, if I were to become unconscious or unable to speak for myself, to make decisions for me, whether you're going to pull the breathing tube or not. Or, I mean, that's, something that you would think that your mom or your family or your husband or your wife, or, this is like, they have me, they don't have anybody else.
I don't know that anyone should start that. I think, like we always advocate for people to have more awareness around their houseless neighbors and, like carry water in your car or, any kind of like extra things that you might have that you can offer your generosity. But you need to train yourself and study and know what kind of situations you're going to be getting into before you try to build deep relationships with folks. It's slow work. It takes a lot of patience, and it also takes a lot of consistency. And there's something like we talk about, like we're the post office. No matter what, especially Sundays, we will always go out and always go to the same routes, around the same time, and bring a consistent set of supplies. And like Jen was talking about, people are living in a war zone. It's chaos. Like one of our participants who actually also works for us, she says, we don't have PTSD. It's not past, it's current and recurring. It's ongoing trauma. So you can't even start to heal because you don't get out of these traumatic situations. So consistency is a really big aspect. Understanding that we're going into someone else's world and that we are visitors and we need to conduct ourselves according to their expectations and their rules. We shy away from working with the police, which is an interesting, complicated thing. Lavit, we talk with Lavit about this quite a bit and how complex it is working with some of the different systems that you actually might need to do certain activities, but we stay away from police as much as possible. And I think that gives us, some level of legitimacy within the community as well. And then there's like a whole other range of things that, like this is how we work, this is how we do it. But a lot of it really is integrity and compassion, no judgment, no shame, and, deep listening and treating people with dignity. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you can tell when somebody relates to you, has been where you've been in some capacity. Like I see myself in everybody out here, and I can understand, I may not know exactly what it is to be them specifically, but I know the feelings underneath, I know, and I think that helps a lot. It's like I feel comfortable, and I think they feel comfortable with me, and I believe that's where like the lived experience aspect comes in, is that, if you've been on the streets before, you may not have been this particular street, but like the general way it functions, like we just understand, and I respect the way the street functions. I'm not here to change how the street functions or anything. I'm just here to let people know that they're worthy of everything in this life, just as they are. That's it. There's no agenda. No agenda whatsoever.
What is your experience with, I'm from a different city, but one thing I see a lot here is, where there's poverty, where there's unhoused people, where there's people in need of, healthcare and social services, then you've got this kind of population of lawyers and social workers and doctors and, nurses and stuff like that, kind of who, their entire job is based around, at least on paper, serving, which people might question that, but like that community. And yeah, I guess kind of like what's your experience of working with them or not working with them, as the case may be?
Again, tricky. I mean, we can talk about the nonprofit industrial complex and all of that. I mean, the truth is I stay housed by working with unhoused people. And, that's an ugly fact, but that's part of it. Like I continue to do sex work to make money as well. But my living is made off of, working with people who don't have resources. And that's something that I think about quite frequently. But people have to be paid. Like the work that we do is really, really hard. Jen works, I don't know how many hours, like we all work. It's a lot of work, and it's not just the work. It's also the toll that it takes on us emotionally, and the compassion fatigue and the burnout and all of these things. So I very much believe in paying people. As far as like working with professionals, there's plenty of people that are punching a clock, working with people. And, like, I don't know why they're doing it. Like the folks that are in medical professions that repeatedly exit people or housing that repeatedly exit people to the street without compassion, without understanding that they are sending someone to their death on a regular basis. So no, I frown on that for sure. And it's not the professional, like Lavit is a social worker who I respect. Yeah. It's not that I don't respect professional people, doctors, nurses, lawyers, social workers, all of that stuff. It's what are you choosing to do in your day on a daily basis? And are you making people's lives harder?
Sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I just had a degree or something that they would, look at me and take me seriously what I'm saying, from my experience, like, listen, like I really can assist, in this, like these things becoming successful and not just being a complete, there's people back on the street and like, cycle. And on the other hand, I'm so grateful I don't have those barriers, because everybody that works in those licenses or under the government, they're fucking the only way I'm able to support somebody is by breaking and bending the rules. I literally cannot, to have their job, like their hands are tied.
That's life under capitalism. You've got administrators that are kicking people out the door that are, deathly ill. And there isn't a way around that, even if you do care as a provider. It's like Lavit talks about this all the time. You can't fix so many of these things without healthcare for all. You can't fix how the housing systems function without changing the system itself.
Obviously, like we talk a lot on this podcast about the kind of the paralyzing and crippling bureaucracies of the places that Ryan and I work, which you also work in. And I have made the point before that I actually believe it's like somebody's job to sit in a room and create forms to paralyze me. Like triple my paperwork, make things even more difficult. And we've talked before too about, making the system bend to our clients. So you have to get in the system to fuck it up from the inside. But it's a really, really, really big problem with specifically like the agencies that I work for, where they kind of cage you in with paperwork and with bureaucratic, Kafka-esque barriers.
To have a passion and to get into this type of work, whether it be nursing or doctors or whatever, you have this passion, right? And for every day to like end your day not being able to do what you had a passion to do, it will burn you out. It will be horrible. That's why I think they burn out so quickly. It's like they're just seeing day after day after day that they cannot do anything because of bureaucracy and like meetings and CCing at 5,000 people. Like we have meetings to have a meeting. I sit in these meetings with like 8,000 people and nothing happens. There's nothing tangible at the end. Nothing. It's just another meeting comes up and it's all about like policies and weirdness.
Let's join another steering committee.
Yeah.
But at the end of the meeting, you guys get to do a deep breathing exercise, okay? And then you can all say something nice about the other person.
Appreciate you.
You can share a meditation, perhaps. So you're missing out.
I know. I try not to miss out too much, but it's bad. It's really bad. And also on the flip side of this, we have a lot of people that do have licenses that are coming to us asking us, teach us, help people, because they want to know, how come your people come to you? How come you have so many people that are actually going into housing and staying? How come this is happening? What are we doing? And it's like, I think I do believe that there is something happening where people are starting to respect what we have, like what we can offer, the lived experience and just the relationships. Like, one person has resources, we have the relationships. Collaboration could make a lot of shit happen. Real things happen.
I identify as an anarchist. I don't know if Jen actually does. I don't think so much, right?
I mean, I don't like to identify as anything. I feel like when I identify as something, then I'm almost like going back to the opposite side. Like, almost like you can go so far left, you go right. Have you ever noticed that? Like, so I'm not. I mean, I would say I am, but I mean, I don't know if I would. I don't know.
So
what does that mean to identify?
For us, our founding, there were qualities of anarchism that are intrinsic in our group, including, like the way that we run things is non-hierarchical. Like, I'm executive director and co-founder, but I'm not going to make decisions for our group. We sit around a table on Sundays and everyone puts their bags of weed together that we're going to take out to the street, and we have conversations and decide things together as a community. Everyone gives me shit because the meetings are long and we talk about our feelings. There might be a meditation in there.
Oh, but you're busted. You're doing the Zoom meeting of death too. I knew it.
Yeah, but it's really, meeting together as a community as opposed to having one person making directives for a group. I think that's really important. We're committed to direct action. We're committed to mutual aid. There's aspects of like anarcho-syndicalism that I find to be very important and, sort of core aspects to how we run things at the Sidewalk Project. So yes, I am an anarchist, and I believe in mutual aid, not because it's the name of something that groups do when they pass out food on the street, because I actually do believe in collaboration as part of evolution.
Agreed.
Just got convinced on the pod. I'm somebody, I went to law school and I didn't really do a lot of practical stuff when I was in law school. And I think I learned a lot once I was out of it. And I was doing basically like legal aid work. And I wish I'd done more of it when I was in school. And I would encourage anyone who's in any sort of professional school, if you've got incredibly generous offers like that, to, get away from the classroom and actually see, what's going on and how people do this stuff for real, you're going to benefit hugely from that. Especially if you go into that line of work. But even if you don't, even if you wind up doing something quite different, you'll probably still gain a lot from that. So yeah, anyone who's watching who's in that position, and especially if you're in Southern California, get on.
Just with your local community-based organization or mutual aid group. There's a lot of great punk rock mutual aid groups around the country that you can go serve food with Food Not Bombs or one of these groups, because then you are, like you're saying, you're directly with the people.
Yeah, even if you're in Merced. So.
Well, thank you so much, Jen. You're the bomb.